Hi everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show, and I'm your host Chrissy B. So what are we going to be speaking about today? Well, fatigue, problems with vision, difficulty walking, these are all symptoms that those living with MS or multiple sclerosis may have to put up with every day. MS is a lifelong condition affecting the central nervous system, and in the build-up to MS Awareness Week, which starts on Monday the 24th of April, we're taking a closer look at the condition. And here to help is our resident psychologist Dr Audrey Tang, who'll be discussing the psychological effects of living with a condition, as well as the support that is available for carers. Then I'll be hearing from my special guest Trishna Bharadia, who has suffered with MS since her 20s and has since been actively campaigning for greater awareness and education. She'll also be joined by Linden Muirhead of the MS Trust, who'll be telling me all about the amazing work that they do. We also have Nutritionist Lily Soutter, who'll be explaining how a healthy, balanced diet can help those with MS. Then we'll also be hearing from our good cause of the week, which is Enough Abuse UK, on how they are helping to prevent child abuse. Then at the end of the show, I'll be giving you my tips on how you can be a friend to someone going through a hard time. So back to our main topic. More than 100,000 people here in the UK have MS, and research suggests that more women have the condition than men, and it is usually diagnosed when people are in their 20s and 30s. So whilst it's not inherited, family members do have a slightly higher risk of developing MS. The condition is different for everyone, and most people won't experience all of the symptoms, and certainly not at the same time. More than 80% of people with MS will have relapses, which can make living with it very unpredictable. Well, we wanted to hear what some of you have to say about the matter, so we went to Twitter. Relieve Ride for MS say they are just exercising multiple sclerosis, crocheting and fighting my dexterity. We are MS warriors, never give up. The New York Times report that the FDA or Food and Drug Administration approves the first drug to treat severe multiple sclerosis. Rico posted this photo and said, "Multiple sclerosis is not going to stop me." Glad to hear it, Rico. Ohio Health MS claimed that childhood obesity, low vitamin D and tobacco smoke exposure increases a kid's risk to develop multiple sclerosis. And Tasha says, roughly 10 years ago, I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and have since fought. Today, I am restarting this journey. And Kim says, I don't talk about this a lot, but I'm one of the 100,000 Canadians living with multiple sclerosis. Well, now let's go to psychologist Dr Audrey Tang for the lowdown on the psychological effects that living with such a condition can have. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right, so tell us about MS, the psychological effects, because
Yes.
obviously, being diagnosed with any condition or illness is, difficult to deal with.
Getting a diagnosis for anything is one of those difficult things. Not only is it a case of you feeling that your life has changed considerably from within minutes, but with something like MS, you've also got the unpredictability of the disease itself. It can affect speech, it can affect movement, it in some cases can produce sexually uninhibited behaviours, it can affect your bowels, it can affect lots of different things. There is no kind of commonality with it because it is an effect on the neural pathways. And that unpredictability in itself can cause a lot of psychological issues. Before I went into teaching, I actually just temped for a while in a stoma care ward, and what I found there was it was because you're dealing with colostomy bags there. They were talking a lot about how your bowel movements and those very private, intimate things are suddenly something that you have to think about. And actually, there is a similarity with MS. If that affects you at any point, we don't often think about how just not being able to control our bowels might affect us. And of course, people then don't want to go out of the house because they don't know when that's going to strike. That can then lead to depression, anxiety, and so on. And then it can cause the psychological effects as well. One of the other problems with the psychological effects of any illness is that it's so much easier to almost blame the illness. Oh, she's not coming out today because she's got MS. no, she may not want to come out because she's depressed or she's anxious or she's got something else affecting her. And unless we actually treat the psychological side of things, it's actually very difficult to have somebody's mindset healthy enough to be able to work with the physical symptoms as well.
And in terms of obviously the family members, the loved ones, how does that work now? Again,
MS is unusual in that it does tend to affect more women than men, which does put the man often into the carer position, which is also quite difficult because they're not used to doing that. And I don't mean that in a blasé statement, but I do mean suddenly you've got a guy who may just be used to going out to work and coming back home again, maybe having to look after the children, maybe having to then also care for the partner, deal with the family issues as well. And it's that in itself can be quite difficult. You've also got different types of care as well, and you need to decide together often with your family which one is most suitable to you and to the state of the illness too, whether you need full-time care, whether you need help, whether someone comes in and so on. But if a family member is caring, it's so easy to lose their identity. They become the carer. It's almost as if someone's had a baby and just become the mum. And it's so important to remember that you are still you and caring is just part of something that you do. So respite care becomes incredibly important as well. We've also got to consider, if it is the partner who's the carer, that there will be a change in the relationship as well. There may be a change in the intimacy of that relationship. That in itself can cause...
This is a very important thing to talk about, isn't it? Because that's a huge strain on relationships.
Yes, exactly. And again, it may be very difficult to get to the point where anyone feels willing to talk about it. The difficulty of getting a diagnosis in the first place is telling friends and family because no one knows what to say. And sometimes actually saying to somebody, I don't know what to say, is better than saying nothing. But then the other danger is that friends and family meaning well can sometimes make it about themselves. And then it's really difficult to talk because they're now worried about, how am I going to cope? How am I going to deal with this? And whilst they are going to be affected, it's really important to let the person with the disease or with the diagnosis be able to lead that conversation and actually say what they want. The other difficulty with friends and family is, of course, we always want to say, oh, well, is there anything you need? Well, that's placing another big decision on that person. I don't know what I'm going to need. I may not need anything now, but maybe in 6 months' time I'm going to need something when everyone stopped asking. So that's where it becomes very, very difficult. The most important thing for friends and family to do is just remain aware, remain present, and offer help when you can. And offer practical help in the sense of, oh, today I'll come around, I'm going to do your ironing. Or, I'll pick up your dry cleaning, because life goes on.
Not even asking, just saying, I'm coming around to do it, and that's it. And I'm sure they'll appreciate that.
And also, the other thing is, because while someone is dealing with diagnosis, the change of life, it's also important to remember that they want to be involved in what's happening with you. So if you've suddenly found out you're pregnant, or if you're getting married, those are great things as well. And it's not a case of pussyfooting around and not saying anything.
Sometimes you sort of want to hide your good news because you think the person's so depressed and about what their diagnosis and about what they're going through. They don't want to hear about you, but that's not true.
That's not true.
Actually, it's just like it's helping them to sort of live a normal life.
Exactly.
In a sense,
this is the whole thing. And whilst I was doing a bit of research for this show, I came across this absolutely wonderful website, which I hadn't considered before. I'm usually very down on social media and those sorts of things because I know what problems it can bring. But sometimes in living a normal life, or as normal as you can, blogging, social media, getting conversation out there, even from the comfort of your own home, it's really important. And I came across a website called peakhealthonline.com, and what they do is they actually specialise in non-pharmaceutical support for diseases. And with MS, they have something called audio-visual entrainment, which can, it's sort of sounds and lights which can actually calm the brain and the neural pathways. And not only that, their website also has a whole library of well-being and a catalogue of just documents that you can have a look at as well. But it's all about keeping that normality and getting in touch, whether it is through social media and being online rather than face-to-face sometimes, is one of the most important things, especially with a condition like MS. Because if it does affect you cognitively, which it can in some people, if you've been living a life as a doctor or a lawyer or someone where you're always having to that's a major change for you, but you might have to find that sense of expression in a different way, and writing about it, that can make a big difference, raising the awareness in that way.
Brilliant. Audrey, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again next week.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, guys, so don't go away, because after the break, we'll be hearing a first-hand account of someone with MS, what it's like to live with and how it's affected their life. And we also have a question for you lovely viewers out there. Did you know that living close to the equator reduces cases of MS? But can you tell us why? Have a think about it, and we'll give you the answer right after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, your TV programme for all things mental health and well-being. Now, before the break, I asked you how living near the equator impacts multiple sclerosis. Well, interestingly, there are very few cases in and around the equator. Now, scientists have suggested that vitamin D plays a vital role, which of course comes from the sun. And of course, those closer to the equator get more sunshine. Well, here to share their knowledge and experience with me now is active MS campaigner Trishna Bharadia and Director of Information and Engagement at MS Trust, Linden Muirhead. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Lovely to have you on the programme. So, Trishna, you have personal experience with the condition.
Yes, I have MS myself.
Right, and then you'll be also telling us about what the MS Trust does and how it helps. So let's start with Trishna first. Tell us, when were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in 2008, so I've been diagnosed for 9 years now.
Okay.
But I've probably had MS for probably around 10 to 11 years,
Right.
Because, as is very common for people who are diagnosed with MS, my first symptoms were put down to something completely different. My first symptoms, I completely lost the strength in both my hands, and this was around 2004. And it was put down to repetitive strain injury, because I was otherwise very healthy.
Yeah.
And a lot of MS symptoms can be put down to a wide variety of other conditions. So I didn't think anything of it, but then in 2007, I completely lost the feeling down one side of my body.
How did you feel when that happened? That must have been so scary.
It was very scary. Because literally from my toes all the way up to my shoulder blade, I went completely numb. I couldn't feel anything. One of the tests that they do is they sort of scratch you with a pin, and I couldn't feel it.
Feel a thing.
I couldn't feel anything.
Wow.
And that was when I was then put onto what I call my path to diagnosis. So I was sent for MRI scans. I had a lumbar puncture. And eventually in May 2008, I was given the diagnosis of relapsing remitting MS.
When you got that diagnosis, how did that make you feel? Was it like, now I know what it is and it's kind of a relief, or oh my God, I've got MS?
It was a mixture. It was a relief, because I thought, well, at least I know what it is, and now I can start being practical and start thinking, well, what am I going to be able to do about it? How can I move on with my life? But it's also scary, because you know that your life is going to change, but you don't know how it's going to change. I always say that two of the most difficult things to come to terms with when you're living with MS is, one, that there is no model. So every single person with MS is different.
Wow.
Everyone experiences a different range of symptoms because of the nature of the condition, because it's where the damage is occurring in the brain and spinal cord. So no two people are ever going to have exactly the same damage occurring in exactly the same places. And it's also the uncertainty, because literally from one day to the next, you don't know how you're going to be feeling. You don't know when your next relapse is going to be, how severe it might be, what part of your body it might affect, how long it will last. And currently, there is no way to provide a prognosis either. So you're living under a constant sort of shadow of uncertainty, which is it's very difficult to come to terms with. At the same time, eventually you do, and you know that I knew that I had to carry on living my life, which is one of the reasons why I became so involved with helping to increase support and awareness.
That's
so
something that
people
you
can
felt
understand.
like you didn't really have at the time, because
Yes.
you were facing so much uncertainty, and that's when obviously charities and organisations like MS Trust come in and do help. Can you just, before we continue with your story, Trish, can we just bring in Linden now? Can you tell us about MS Trust and what you do? And
yes,
how you
so
help?
we're a small UK charity supporting people nationwide to live well with their MS. And we do that through providing evidence-based information that's written with and for the people with MS. So we put them absolutely at the heart of what we do, making sure that we take what their needs are to drive what we do. And we run an inquiry service, so anybody with MS or affected by MS can phone us and talk to us about their concerns. And we also work with the specialist health professionals who work in MS. So that's particularly MS nurses, but also therapists. So when Trishna was talking about some of the symptoms that she's had, you know, physiotherapy, these kind of therapies can really help people manage that condition. So yeah, that's...
In your experience with the people that do ask for help, what's their, would you say, is their biggest difficulty?
Well, I think there's a lot around diagnosis, because diagnosis can be a very long journey. And so for some people, they're in this period of not really knowing what's going on. And that is very scary. So we have resources around being newly diagnosed, which are very tailored to the needs of that particular audience and build up gradually. So there's that. And then we get lots of queries about symptoms, more common symptoms, such as intense pain and how to cope, cognitive things, so when people have struggled with memory, etc. So those are the sort of things that we talk about all the time. So.
Which is very, it's just so nice to have someone there that understands and can talk about these things. Now, Trishna, how is it on a daily basis? Because you talked about the uncertainty, but what do you do for things like work and just running, just day-to-day things? How do you plan, or do you plan?
You do have to plan. Fatigue is one of my symptoms, so on a daily basis I plan everything that I do. I work from home, which is something which my employer was very good and made these reasonable adjustments for me. I have a huge amount of support from my family, and that's extremely important. It's life with MS can be made so much easier if you have support around you, and so my family is my main source of support on a daily basis. And also support from your healthcare team. I have a very good relationship with my healthcare team, so my neurologist, my MS nurse, my GP, and anybody else who is involved in my healthcare and trying to enable me to live as positive a life as possible with this condition. So yeah, on a daily basis, it's about managing, it's about adjusting to new normals. That's what I like to call it, because I'm a very positive person. I like to think about how you can do something rather than why you can't. So yes, there are things which I've had to either make adjustments or change the way that I do things, but I still want to be able to carry on doing the things that I love.
Now, this is very interesting because Linden, obviously, Trishna is very positive, but you must get a lot of people that aren't so positive, and that must be quite difficult to deal with.
It is very difficult, and it's a very emotional state for people to get into. And I think Trishna's absolutely right. Having the support of your friends, your family, getting good relationships with your health professionals is really important. And I think the MS nurses in particular. So people with MS tell us that MS nurses are their absolute lifeline. They're the person that they can pick the phone up to at any time and talk about treatment or symptoms or just coordinating their care or just have a chat, actually. So I think that support is really vital. And because MS is such an individual condition and everybody is different from person to person, hour to hour, it's really important that people have places they can go to for support.
Now, Trishna, you said you're doing quite a lot to raise awareness. Can you tell us about some of those things?
Gosh, I did lots of things. How long have you got? So I blog, I campaign, I write articles for MS and disability magazines. I speak at awareness events and health conferences. I help to educate pharmaceutical companies about living with MS. What else? I do lots of...
It's like it's not enough.
For me, it's very much, it's about providing a 360-degree view of how to improve awareness and support. So it's not just about, for example, for me, it's not about going and just doing one thing. Something else that I do is I contribute quite a bit into radio programs. So we have MS Awareness Week coming up. So I will go on the radio and I will talk about MS.
But why have you gone that step further? Not just, okay, now I've been diagnosed, now I'm going to try and manage as best I can. Why have you gone that extra mile and done all of this?
I think because when I was diagnosed, I wasn't signposted to the right information. I wasn't told where to go to for support. There is a huge amount of support out there, but if people don't know about it, then they're missing out. And so for me, it's about raising awareness about that support so that people with MS know where to go. But I also believe that unless people are aware of the condition, they're not going to be able to understand. So the wider community, what I call the non-MS community, they're only going to be able to provide the correct support if they understand the condition.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that for me it's the most important thing. And it's not just, for example, for MS, if that goes across the whole board of, chronic conditions. Right. If people understand it, then they are going to be able to provide that support, and support is so vital.
Definitely. Now, Trishna, what I find interesting about you is that, some people get diagnosed, not just with MS, but other conditions as well, and it's like their life stops, but you're managing to work.
Yes.
Okay, with the help of your employer, obviously you're working from home, you're managing to work and find the time and the energy to do all these other things. That to me is proof that you can keep living, you can keep having a good life, right? And doing, obviously you have your challenges. Yeah. But, for someone that, I can ask both of you this question, for someone that's just been diagnosed and is feeling really down in the dumps and they're thinking, why me? What's the point of going on? I might as well just give up. What advice would you both give? Let's start with Linden.
Well, I think it is about no one has to face MS alone. There is lots of support out there. I think the power of positive thinking, the power of things like mindfulness, pacing yourself, and setting yourself goals, which are the things that are most important to you. Okay. So not trying to do everything, recognising that there may be limitations on some things, but so pick the things that are really important.
Okay, how about yourself, Trishna?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'd say don't be afraid to ask for help, because asking for help and getting that help can be so liberating, because it means that you will be able to move forward, and it is about finding ways to overcome these challenges. Because at the end of the day, currently there is no cure for MS. So if you're diagnosed, yes, there are medications that can help slow down the progression, depending on the type of MS that you have. But currently, if you're diagnosed, you have it for the foreseeable future. So in a way, you have to find a way around things. Yeah. Because otherwise, it's very difficult to live a positive and continue to try and be happy in your life. I know lots of people who have been through depression with MS. I have known people, so one person I know with MS actually committed suicide, which it goes to show how deep it can affect you emotionally. However, as Linden said, you don't have to face it alone.
Definitely not.
So if you've got the support there, then that will help.
Brilliant. And obviously, people can get, look at your blogs and your vlogs and everything else you're doing. And we also have the MS Trust here for that.
Our website,
for that
and
support.
we have social media groups where you can talk to other people with MS, and that's often a good sort of support.
Brilliant. Ladies, it's been a pleasure speaking to you both.
Thank you
so much for coming on to raise awareness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, everyone, we do have more for you after the break, and we did have a viewer question. Now, say you've eaten more than your average calories in a day, but you haven't had any fruit or veg. Is it healthy for you to then eat fruit and veg on top, or should you just stop eating? Well, Nutritionist Lily Soutter will be answering your viewer questions right after this. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show.
Hi, I'm Julianne, and welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, where today has been all about living with multiple sclerosis. So now in a second we'll be answering the viewer question that Chrissy read out before the break, but first, as she mentioned earlier, a healthy, balanced diet has been proven to greatly improve the effects of MS. So we asked you what your tastiest and healthiest foods were, and Christina says baked strawberries, so excellent. Also one of my favorites. But here to go through some top tips on achieving what that healthy diet and that balanced diet is our wonderful nutritionist, Lily Soutter.
Hello.
Hi, Lily. So, MS and healthy eating. What do we need to do? What do you need to know about?
Okay, so there's lots of sort of conflicting evidence when it comes to specific diets for MS.
Yeah.
There are several diets out there, and some people do experience improvements or improved quality of life, whereas others may just not see much difference. So I may just talk you through the diets that are out there. So the first one that we have is the swank diet, and
what's the swank diet?
So it's a very low-fat diet, and it focuses on eliminating dairy, it eliminates meat, and also looking at supplementation with sort of omega-3 fats, vitamin D as well. And then there's the best bet diet as well, which also focuses on eliminating certain food groups. The other aspect that it looks at is allergies and allergy testing. But with this diet, you have to supplement with around 18 different supplements. So it's quite a lot. And then the last diet is the paleo diet, which has been quite regularly promoted for people with MS. And it's a caveman diet. It's basically going back to the hunter-gatherer days.
Yeah.
Again, it eliminates certain food groups, so you're looking at removing dairy from the diet, legumes, grains, potatoes and processed foods.
So for the benefit of the viewers, can you explain what a legume is and what exactly the restrictions are?
So what they're looking at is removing sort of chickpeas, lentils and beans really.
Yeah.
So all these diets are eliminating whole food groups. So in some ways it may not necessarily be healthy, and then we have to look at what nutrients could be missing from the diet. And just unfortunately, there is no conclusive evidence to say that any one specific diet is going to be helpful with those suffering from MS.
Yeah.
But saying that, some people do find that following certain diets may improve symptoms or may improve quality of life.
Okay, but what would you say then are essential nutrients that we need in the MS diet?
Okay, so multiple sclerosis is basically an autoimmune condition.
Yeah.
So what happens is inflammation can actually damage the protective layer around nerves. And that can cause sort of communication errors between the brain and the body, and then that can obviously manifest into symptoms. So what we're looking at is an anti-inflammatory sort of diet or anti-inflammatory foods, as well as autoimmune sort of foods as well, which can regulate the immune system.
So stuff that is just genuinely good for like calming down the swelling and good for your nerves.
Yeah, immune regulation, basically. That's what we're trying to do. And actually, when sufferers have a relapse of symptoms, they're actually given corticosteroids. So that's an anti-inflammatory medication. So what we're trying to think is if we can get that from foods, then absolutely great. And it's also about regulating the immune system as well.
Yeah.
So some of these foods actually, which I'm going to be making within the dish, are great anti-inflammatory foods.
Yeah.
So I don't know, shall I talk you through the foods
individually?
individually?
So what are you going to be making us today?
So today I'm going to be making an anti-inflammatory salmon fillet on a bed of courgette, and basically what that is it's spiralized courgette, which I'll show you how to do in a second. And then we'll also be having some pomegranate as well on there. And oily fish is absolutely great when it comes to reducing inflammation. It's full of omega-3 fats, which has potent anti-inflammatory properties. And then we've got the pomegranate, which is a very rich source of antioxidants.
Yeah.
And antioxidants, again, can help to reduce inflammation. And then healthy fats, again, coming from things like olive oil, which again can help to reduce inflammation.
Yeah.
So,
all my favorite things. I love salmon, so I'm quite excited.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Amazing. So the first thing with a salmon, this has already actually been steamed, but what you can do is you just wrap it in some tin foil and then place it in the steamer for about 5 minutes. You can drizzle some olive oil and some lemon juice within the tin foil as well.
Is steaming salmon the best way to prepare it? Does it contain most all the nutrients?
Yeah, apparently steaming actually does contain most of the nutrients when it comes to fish. So it's just a very healthy way of cooking.
And
so
is that also in regards to all other meats as well and vegetables?
It really depends. The studies that I've seen on fish, steaming is the best way. When it does come from vegetables, when it comes to vegetables, steaming also is amazing as well because it does protect the nutrients. Boiling's not so great.
Really?
But when it comes to meat, I'm not too sure about the evidence of what the best way is to cook when we're looking at nutrients. So
I personally like to roast my veg.
Yeah.
So
Okay, great. So once that's been steamed, you just leave it to one side, and then we're going to make a pesto.
Right.
So what we need first of all is a handful of basil leaves, which go in there. And then the next ingredient is garlic, and you only have to chop this very roughly because we're going to blend it.
I love garlic. I love basil.
Yeah, and
it smells so good.
Raw garlic is quite potent, but it's got great antibacterial properties. So that's the garlic, and then we drizzle in some olive oil. It's about 100 mils. These are the healthy fats that are going into the pesto. So this pesto actually is a vegan one for no specific reason, but it tastes just as good. So basically by that I mean it's got no dairy, it's got no cheese in there. Cashew nuts is the next one. Full of protein and healthy fats again.
How much fat is too much fat in your everyday?
Okay, so
when it comes to healthy fats especially.
Okay. So what I would say, the easiest way to judge how much fat should be on your plate is for a woman, it should be about 1 to 2 thumbs. So that's a good way of judging. And for a man, again, it should be about 2 thumbs, maybe 3 thumbs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's about 1 thumb. So if you're sort of smaller, then obviously you're going to have a smaller thumb, so you need less fat in the diet. So that's a rough way of judging.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's 1 or 2 thumbs per portion, or just in general?
Per portion, per meal. So that's a great way. Grams, I mean, no one really weighs everything, out anyway. So it's very, very hard to say, right, this is the amount of grams that you'll have, this is what you should be eating every day, because we're never going to weigh it out. But as a general rule of thumb, as long as you're getting lots of good fats into your diet, less of the bad fats, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, the fats are working hard.
Yeah.
All right.
So the next thing is the lemon juice, and you squeeze a half a lemon in there, which we'll do. And then after this, we just blend it, and you can blitz it in the NutriBullet, and you blitz it for around sort of 30 seconds.
Okay.
Amazing.
Okay. So.
And then we put it on this way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
All right.
Okay. And then if you just put that in the NutriBullet.
All right.
Amazing. Okay, that should be all right. And then this is really good because it can literally stay in your fridge for a couple of days, and you can put it on anything. You can put it on chicken, you can put it in your sandwiches, you can top it on salads or pasta.
Good.
So courgette, basically what we do is we put the courgette in the spiralizer and you twist it round and it comes out in sort of spiralized pasta shaped courgette pieces.
Can you eat it raw?
You can eat it raw or you can eat it cooked. It really doesn't matter. So we just put a bit of courgette onto the plate. And then you pour on your pesto.
They're just like, I swear most of good eating is eating with your eyes.
Exactly.
It's so gorgeous.
And then lastly, you put your salmon fillet on top. So this is full of healthy anti-inflammatory fats. And then lastly, we top it with pomegranate. And again, pomegranates are so rich in antioxidants, which have those amazing anti-inflammatory properties as well.
I can't believe how fast this is.
Yeah.
It's ready to go and ready to serve. This is amazing. Wow.
So yeah, when looking at MS, trying to fit in as many anti-inflammatory foods into your diet is great. Removing the inflammatory foods, so that would be things like white refined carbohydrates, too much sugar, trans fats, which you can find from processed foods. So any cheap sort of processed snack type foods or ready meals tend to have those unhealthy trans fats in the diet. Removing too much alcohol as well, drinking lots of water. And then I guess when it comes to immune modulation as well, one thing which we do need to look at is vitamin D, and that really can help to regulate the immune system. So it's not sort of overstimulating it, and it's not sort of suppressing the immune system too much, it's regulating the immune system. And in the UK, you know, some people are deficient in vitamin D because they just don't get enough sunlight.
There isn't enough sun, to be fair, so this is very important.
Oily fish is a source of vitamin D, so that's one area. If you're not going out in the sunlight, then you can supplement with vitamin D, but oily fish, egg yolks are great sources of vitamin D.
Wow,
so,
that's great. Like, and it just looks amazing, guys. Like, honest to God. Right. So I'm getting hungry just looking at it. So, before we go, a few questions. If you've eaten more than your average calories in a day, but haven't had any fruit or veg, is it healthy for you to then eat fruit and veg on top, or should you just leave it?
Okay, so the government recommend 5 a day for a reason.
Okay.
Vegetables and fruit provide us with numerous antioxidants, vitamins, minerals needed for optimal health. So if you get to the end of the day and you realise you've overdone it on the calories and have had very little veg, then that is something that really does need to be addressed for another time. So an easy way to go around that is just making sure you're filling half your plate with vegetables. So for example, this is just a pack full of veg at each meal, adding veg or fruit to your smoothies, you know, snacking on raw carrot sticks or apple sticks. And then, I mean, the other thing about fruit and vegetables is that they're very low in calories as well.
I was just going to say, surely, even if you've overdone it a little bit, it's okay to indulge.
They're very low in calories. So for example, you would be stuffed from eating 500 calories worth of broccoli because it would be a mound on your plate. But to have a 500 calorie muffin, it could be eaten within 5 minutes. So it really will make very little difference to the calorie intake from having a plate of broccoli or courgette or whatever it is to your diet, but the benefits you get from the antioxidants, vitamins and minerals are massive. So yes, I would, it's absolutely fine to add additional fruit and veg if you've overdone it on the calories, but it is something which should be addressed for next time.
Last viewer question. I'm in need of some healthy snack ideas for my kids. They get hungry before lunch and they need something other than sliced apples or grapes, which are very boring. Can you help?
Okay, so with snack ideas, there's absolutely tons you can give to children.
Oh, really?
With the apples, you can jazz them up a little bit and put some almond butter or some nut butter on top with some chocolate chips if they really want a treat. Or you could add a few walnuts or dried coconut. Other options, popcorn is absolutely fine as long as it's homemade and it's got no sort of added sugar and salt on it. Other options are energy balls, which you can make by
like we've done on the show,
which we have done, and you can add sort of all the ingredients to a NutriBullet, which could consist of cacao, some desiccated coconut, a few dates, and some nuts or seeds, and you literally blend them, roll them into a ball, and they can taste really nice and much healthier than chocolate.
To be honest, things don't necessarily need to have sugar in order to taste sweet and lovely anyway.
No, exactly. So there's lots of options, and I think probably my favourite would be having those apples but dipping them into almond butter because they give that child the protein and the fat that they need to balance blood sugar, to prevent energy dips, but it's so tasty as well. Nut butters taste very indulgent, but they're really healthy.
And they're full of good things for you.
Yes, exactly.
All right, thank you so much, Lily. I'm definitely making this at home. So, back to you, Chrissy.
So I'm going to show you and just like move around, Joe, and show you the sort of things. So you are talking about maybe like exaggerated behaviour. You're sat in a room. We look at us here now. We've got loads and loads of room. and you're looking at the person that really wants to be up close. Yeah? Why, when you've got a room, why would someone say, because my experience of kids, and I had 4 under 5, and these are my twins, my experience of kids, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is when you sit down like this, oh, got a tea, lovely, poof, and they go, oh, get off. Yeah? And they smell, don't they, very often, because, you know, especially if they've got filthy, because they've done mucky pups, or they've done something disgusting, and their nose is snotty, and they've got jam all over their fingers, and they get away, and they go, back they come. You know, can I have my cup of tea? No. Why would I go like this, though? Come on, sit on my lap. Come on. Whose need is being met? Come on, sit on my lap. No, I don't want to. Come on. Why? If a child wants to sit on your lap, a child will chuck itself at you, yeah? Yeah. So the person that's always far too close, far too touchy-feely, far too, you know, and always wants to have the child on its lap. Big signs, big signs.
So I'm delighted to be joined by Marilyn Hawes. Hello, Marilyn.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lovely to have you on the programme. So obviously, wonderful work that you're doing. But can you tell us a little bit about the charity and how you help?
Well, the charity began from my own experience as a teacher. I missed the fact that my boss was actually a paedophile, the head teacher, and my 3 sons became abused. So as a teacher who had learnt everything about safeguarding, so I thought, clearly I'd missed something vital. So whilst I was off 2 years having a breakdown and not understanding what had gone on, I decided to look at what I'd missed, and what I'd missed that nobody spoke about, and they still don't now, are the behaviours. If you don't understand the behaviours of someone that's hanging around the children, and the behaviours of those who are the risk, and those behaviours are very clear to see once you understand them, then you'll miss it every time.
Wow.
And that's what I've focused on, and spent that 2 years I was off sick, going and meeting people that dealt with sex offenders, child abusers. Yeah. And I go into prisons now with some of my ambassadors, and I talk to the people who are the abusers. So we are looking at the whole ball of where does it start? Yeah. Are you born like it? No, you're not. So what are the flags? What are the triggers? What should we be looking for in the early years? What are those behaviours? You can't see what's going on behind someone's eyes, but you can see the behaviour, and the absolute clue is in the behaviours.
Wow. So, Marilyn, obviously I know people watching this, especially parents now, dying to know some of those behaviours and things to look out for. Can you tell us a few of those? I know we haven't got much time, but
it's the grooming is the absolute singled out. They cherry pick. They'll cherry pick the family. If you're looking at offline grooming, they will cherry pick the family first. They're very patient. They can groom and work into that family. 3-4 years they'll wait. Very happily, yeah. I mean, a paedophile will have 5 or 6 children on the go at any time, and those are the children that are prepubescent. You also have infantophiles, that's the same behaviour for children, babies up to 5. Then you have hebephiles, children from puberty up to 16. So I refer to them all as abusers, but the behaviours will be the same. Schmoozing up to the parents, that you get that quirky feeling in your gut. This doesn't feel right. What's going on here? You have to pay attention to it. But the trouble is we logic it away. We think that just nanosecond was weird. It didn't feel right. Too much interest in that child. Too many gifts. Too much weird attention. Too much weird affection. Lap sitting.
When you say weird affection, can you give us some
overly exaggerated, more than you yourself would do. You know, well, I always use this when I'm doing the training, you know instinctively at an office party when somebody fancies somebody else, and after a couple of drinks, bingo, you know it's going to happen. And you know because you sense it in the air and you feel it, and it's the same thing. You are watching a covert relationship develop because this person believes they are in love with this child. So paedophile means lover of children in a sexual desire. And you will see, just as a boy treats a new girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever your gender preferences, it will begin with lots of presents, lots of attention, looking very nice, all that stuff. It's the same sort of thing, but it just doesn't feel right. That you get that, you absolutely get that feeling in your gut. And when you get that, that doesn't feel right, that's your solar plexus telling your brain that there's something going wrong here. We don't do what animals do. The bird flies away from the cat. It knows, it senses by instinct it's a predator. It flies away. It observes. We don't do that. We have that feeling, and then we go, oh, it can't be. It's the priest. It's the scoutmaster.
Yeah, it's because sometimes it's difficult, because especially when a person is in a position of trust, or it's a family member, and you kind of might notice something, and you're like, oh no, I'm just even feel bad for thinking that of that person, because how could you think that way? Well, you haven't had any sort of concrete proof, and then you just end up ignoring things that you shouldn't.
And you should write it down, because I have a sort of an acronym which I spell out, which is SAFER. How do you keep yourself safer? And I don't think the parents realise they are going to be groomed first. So, you sense it. You definitely sense it in your gut. Then you become alert to it. And you hang on a minute, what am I watching here? What focus on it and engage. Tell someone. If you only do the first three, you sense it, you alert, you focus. The call to action is you must engage and you must record it. When I did my statement for the police, I was absolutely embarrassed to say I had seen 40 pages of A4. That was my statement. 40 pages of nanosecond things that I had missed over 17 years of befriending this guy. And it's very subtle, but on our training, I actually act it out, as the film will have shown. I show the sort of lap sitting, I show the sort of behaviours, I groom, I pretend people in the front row are my audience, are my family, and I will groom them and I'll play them off against each other. This is a game of duplicitous deceit. It is the biggest con trick in the book, and the child enjoys that time of grooming, because it's very nice to feel special. I mean, I say to adults, do you like presents? Yes. Do you like being told you're loved? Yes. Do you like being appreciated? Yes. Do you like being special? Yes. So you like being groomed. It's how people, it's powerful, but it's more than that. It has that edge to it. And the lap sitting, which is what I described with the teddy bear, how do you sit that child on your lap? Should you put it on your lap? What do you do next? How do you tickle a child? How do you carry a child? All these they're very obvious once you've been taught them. But if you miss,
So all parents need this training.
They do, but you try getting parents to a course. It's unbelievable. I don't know what's happened to parenting these days. It's like somehow the accountability has gone. The responsibility, I gave birth to this child, I'm 100% responsible for it. I teach schools. There isn't a sector that we don't go in and train. But when you try and get parents, even if it's online, 60% of children that are abused, it's in the family. Wow. It's 90% of children abused offline. That person comes through your living room door. And so trusted by the parents, you've allowed them access. You've trusted this person, you've gone with them, you've been suckered in, you've let them in. And then, this is what I feel so sorry about with parents, is you don't want to be me. You don't want your whole life to go down the drain. This shattered my life in a way you can't imagine, as every other parent feels and knows. It could be you tomorrow. Why wouldn't you want to learn how to stop it, how to prevent it? That's what's not happening in this country. No one is talking a common sense argument about prevention. And it's £3.2 billion we are spending every year in the UK on the fallout of coping with the incidents of sexual abuse. Why don't we? Yes. Why don't we take 1 million, 2 million of that and prevent it? Well, it's a no-brainer.
I mean, Mara, I can see how passionate you are, obviously, because of what's happened to you as well.
It never leaves you.
if, you know, the parents that are watching now that do actually want to get some help, and even if nothing's happened but they like the training, what do they need to do?
Email me through my website, and we train anyway. We go into parents' living rooms if they can get a crowd of friends together. I will do anything I can till the day I die to prevent another mother going through what I went through. I lost everything in my life that was my life. And I've got 3 boys that we've had to carry through that are now thankfully happily married, good jobs, and they're getting on with their life, but I'm their mother. And I didn't expect to gift wrap my children for a paedophile. That never leaves you.
Marilyn, thank you so much for coming on to share that. And, you know, please guys, you know, if you have been affected by this, and even if you haven't, and you'd like to, you know, be a responsible parent, please do get in touch with Marilyn. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so now let's take a look at tonight's tips on how to help a poorly loved one. So let's get straight to my tips for today. The first point is, don't take it personally. Now, the person you are looking after probably won't be themselves, so don't take it personally if they snap at you or they don't treat you how they would normally. They're probably on maybe some kind of medication that can, of course, influence their mood. So avoid snapping back, arguing back. Try not to get into arguments, because that only places extra stress on you and on the person that you're looking after. Of course, that's not to say that, you know, if things do get out of hand and the person is, you know, over the top, of course you can sit them down and say, look, I don't really find this kind of behavior acceptable. Can we talk about it? Of course, you have to address the issue if it gets really bad. But if they're just snappy and they're just maybe a bit argumentative, it's not you, it's just what they're going through. My second point is, do normal things. So don't let it be all about the person's illness. Do normal things together, such as watching a funny film, maybe just having a chat, even sitting in silence and reading something. You don't have to be, you know, always talking about what they're going through and their feelings and how are you now and how are you feeling now. As a loved one, as a friend, it is quite tempting to always be checking up on them, because naturally you're worried about them, but this can sort of add extra strain to the person that you're looking after, and actually extra strain on you as well. Sometimes they want to think about something else. It's not all about their illness or, you know, what's happened to them. They want to focus on something good and something fun. And, you know, sometimes it's us that are caring for them that bring up everything and make them feel upset again. So make sure you do bring some kind of normality and just do things that haven't got anything to do with what the person is going through. My next point is, reassure them. So maybe this person feels like there may be a bit of a burden, or that they're taking up too much of your time, and people do feel guilty about that. And so reassure them that you want to be with them, and try not to do everything for them. So if there are things that they can manage themselves, just let them get on with it so that they can still feel useful. And obviously going back to the other point about, you know, doing normal things. So obviously stick to your appointments, don't cancel everything on behalf of that person, so they also see that you are still getting on with your life and that you're not putting your whole life on hold for that person. My next point is to take time out. So people who are poorly are sometimes prone to feeling down and depressed. So be careful that you don't let that pass on to you. So make sure you keep yourself healthy, you keep yourself mentally strong, and that you are maybe getting the support that you need, because carers do need a lot of support themselves. Depending on the severity of your loved one's condition or illness, it could mean that you are with them quite a lot and you're having to deal with many things that you're not used to. So make sure that you are getting the support that you need as well, so you can be the best help to your loved one. Well, everyone, we have reached the end of today's program, but don't forget, if you would like to be part of this show, maybe you have a story to share, or maybe you have a suggestion for a topic, we do love to hear from our viewers. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Till next time, bye for now.